Microphone check 1, 2. Yes, we are live. Hello. Good evening, everybody. Even though it's sunny outside, well, daylight savings time, so make it as you will. Welcome to episode 108 of the Below the Yellow Line podcast. I'm your host, Joe Landy Pavlon. I have Justin along with me tonight. Hopefully, Danny can join us later. I haven't heard from him, so hopefully, Danny, if you see this, please join us. We'd like to have that third man in. And no, we're not talking about an NHL penalty, a third man in, but yeah, that's just the way she goes.
Yep.
Not a Trailer Park Boys reference. Okay. Let's get serious and talk racing. What a weekend that was. I apologize for having this podcast on a Tuesday. Life happened. So make it as you will. But we're here. Sunday is still 2 days away, and we had a lot of action over the Motorsport weekend. We're going to start with NASCAR, as we always do, and then we'll carry on over to the action in St. Petersburg with the IndyCar Series race and capture the Formula E events as well. We'll have everything in between here. So let's get started with NASCAR and Sunday's Talladega Geico 500. And who do you know? Brad Keselowski, he's just called him the modern-day plate ace, picks up another win at Talladega Superspeedway, a historic sixth time. He now ties Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Jeff Gordon for second most wins at Talladega with 6. Keselowski has still some ways to go to get to the ultimate record, owned nearly exclusively by Dale Earnhardt with 10 wins. He has to get 4 more to reach that, but Brad Keselowski had a field day on Sunday. He recovered from an early race crash that took his teammate Joey Logano out of the race. Recovered, got some new tires on, just ran the laps, did what he could, and ultimately it was car number 2 finishing position number 1.
Yeah,
Danny, we have you here on to join us. Just got started about talking about the whole situation at Talladega with Brad Keselowski's adventurous race.
Oh man, what a win for Keselowski! I honestly thought McDowell was gonna clear him and go straight to the front and get the win, but Keselowski was able to hold him off.
I think he learned a little bit more than McDowell expected after the Daytona 500 finish this year. He got it right this time. But Brad, I mean, like I mentioned just before Danny joined, he was involved in that stage 1 ending crash that took Joey Logano out of the race. And Brad Keselowski luckily didn't hit anything nor get hit while going around, which pretty much saved Keselowski's race.
Yeah.
And never lost a lap. Even when pitting, when the pits were closed, he received an end of long assigned penalty and kept on going. As a result, Brad Keselowski led only the final lap to score this win. We had a lot of lap leaders, so you guys are going to have to bear with me as I read them off. But Brad Keselowski led only the final lap. And by the way, this isn't the first time that he led just the final lap to win at Talladega. And yeah, we know last lap passes are not an uncommon sight at this track. But in 2009, driving for the team owned by James Finch, Phoenix Racing. No, not the GT3 team, but the defunct NASCAR team owned by James Finch.
Yeah.
Brad Keselowski not only led just the final lap that race, but he led his very first NASCAR Cup Series lap. Entangling with Carl Edwards and putting Keselowski's Mikasuki Chevrolet into victory lane.
Yep.
So I guess history repeats itself in some capacity. William Byron. Let's talk about William Byron for a moment. He is another example of a driver that had an accident and recovered. Byron finished second, like 12 laps, starting fourth, had a very good car, even after the contact.
Yeah.
Place Michael McDowell. Now, Michael McDowell, the Daytona 500 champion, shows that he can get it done either way. Had a very fast car, stayed with the pack, finished third, started 23rd, so finished 20 spots better. Kevin Harvick led 12 laps, started 16th, picks up a 4th place finish. The 2010 winner of this race was close, but just not close enough. Remember, Harvick led on the final lap last year and did not take the checkered flag in the spring race. 5th place, and boy, we're back with this discussion again. Matt DiBenedetto, another near victory for this driver.
Yes.
Another close call for the Wood Brothers, nearly getting win number 100. DiBenedetto won stage 1. He led 28 laps, started 13th. Matt DiBenedetto was in the lead coming to the white flag. What went wrong?
Well, I thought Matt DiBenedetto got 6. Gralla got P5 ahead of
the 2 positions were actually reversed due to replays.
Right.
What?
Yeah, you have to go on Racing Reference to find out.
But NASCAR
Bob
still...
Pockrass tweeted on Sunday it was a close call, but De Benedetto got it over Grella. But yeah, what went wrong for De Benedetto in terms of him leading on that final lap?
One thing I noticed, he didn't go to the right lane. He blocked the outside, but the inside on the bottom had a better run, which gave Brad Keselowski an advantage there, which really didn't help Matt De Benedetto.
Right, and knowing how close Matt was last year, of course, there was a different story. No yellow line controversy here, no fuel coming towards the empty in this case. Everybody fueled well compared to last year's race. You know, a lot was at stake if you think about the whole playoffs being a factor, especially in the fall races now.
Yeah, exactly.
But this time it was more fairly clean. And Matt De Benedetto, of course, we know he's not going to be in that Wood Brothers car next year. As of this podcast, it's still Austin Cindric's ride next year.
Yeah, but very unfortunate.
Right. See, the driver's so deserving. I mean, so close to win. Boy, it's gonna happen. Matt De Benedetto is gonna get that win, and it's gonna be a very special moment, I'll tell you. But he was close, and this driver's a learner. That's one thing I know about Matty D. Let's go down the results here. How about this? Kaz Grella. Kaz Grella started towards the back, 30th place, up to 6th. Career best finish. So well done for Kaz Grella. Not only for Grella, but for Colleague Racing. Colleague Racing's best career finish as a NASCAR Cup team. 7th place, Tyler Reddick. Reddick started 20th. He was pretty feisty towards the front. Never seemed to get the lead. Reddick's teammate Austin Dillon started 11th, finished 8th. Ryan Blaney, who finished 9th, last year's winner in the spring. He won twice at Talladega. In the past, Blaney led 11 laps and started in the 7th spot, brought it home 9th. Was a factor in the final restart, but just got shuffled out of the way. And Cole Custer rounds out the top 10. Custer started 27th, a very needed top 10 for Cole Custer. 11th place, Chase Briscoe. Briscoe led 1 lap, started 25th, picks up 11th place, his career best finish so far. So well done for Chase Briscoe. 12th place, another career best finish, and Anthony Alfredo, who started 30th. 13th place, Ryan Newman led 2 laps, started 28th, brought it home 13th. A very solid run for Ryan Newman. Ryan Preece led 16 laps and started 29th. He finished 14th. Eric Almirola, gosh, what is it going to take for him to, be at the right place at the right time? He had a good car, but just the cautions went against his wishes for sure. Eric led 16 laps and started 14th to finish in the top 15. And Ross Chastain, boy, if he didn't spin on that final stretch, he probably would have gotten the top 10. Chastain led 12 laps and started 18th, but a very impressive run for the most part. Christopher Bell, a driver who we didn't expect to see shuffled out of the way, as was Kyle Busch. Bell led 2 laps. Kyle Busch led 6 laps. 19th place, Bubba Wallace, who won stage 2, led 16 laps and started 24th. And once again, another great run by Bubba Wallace and the 2311 racing team that does not reflect upon the results at the end. And 20th place, how about this? Harrison Burton, who is under contract with Joe Gibbs Racing in the Xfinity Series, a very good driver over there, was signed by the Gaunt brothers with a factory-supported Toyota Camry, started 39th, and completed all the laps to finish home 20th in his Cup Series debut. Very impressive run for Harrison Burton.
He also actually got stage points. I know he doesn't get the points.
The team does, but not him.
But he still was in the top 10 for a part of the race, which was really impressive in this 96 century. In his first Cup start, and also, he made that Cup start without practice or qualifying. It is the first time
impressive.
In his Yeah, it was. Seeing that 96 up in the top 10. They're good at these tracks. Like that, Gaunt Brothers always brings a car good on these tracks.
It was very unfortunate still, even to this day, to see Ty Dillon barely lose his spot in the Daytona 500. Moving on in the race results, 24th place, Chase Elliott. Elliott led 3 laps and started 8th, just had a bad race towards the closing stages. 27th place, he was inches from the finish line, never made it. Eric Jones had it. Probably one of his best runs yet at Richard Petty Motorsports, leading 7 laps, starting 22nd, and it was just heartbreaking to see the end result for Erik Jones' impressive race. And knowing the situation where Erik Jones is in his career, is this a sign for better races to come? Or, is this just what to expect, that it was just a play track and you had the car to keep up with the pack, and it could go north or south, left or right, and it went south and left for Erik Jones.
Yeah. Well, the thing about Erik Jones, he had old tires at one point. Remember that restart where he restarted and old tires fell to the back? But also at one point, Erik Jones was kind of, I know when I was watching the race, I've noticed Erik Jones kind of did some not the best moves. Remember when Grallo scored in 5th at first, but before they changed it and stuff? The funny thing about that, Erik Jones, when Erik Jones spun into that outside
Yeah, he came right down on Grallo.
He tried to basically run into him to get a top 5, but nope, that didn't work.
Final lap, you're going to go all out, and you think that, you at least make it to the finish line. He never made it to the line.
And people tried to say, Tyler Reddick was doing not the best moves. He said, De Benedetto lost because of Tyler Reddick pulling out
That's
behind
a good case,
Blaney.
by the way.
Yeah, but the thing is, if he blocked the
Blaney could
bottom...
have went, or De Benedetto could have went in the fence. It could go any way.
Yeah.
But, you're always going to have that what-if stuck in your head watching the replay.
Yeah, but Talladega was interesting.
Let's move down the results. A very miserable end to what was looking like a very hopeful race for Denny Hamlin, the points leader, who started on pole, led 43 laps more than any other driver, failed to pick up the stage win on each occasion, and stage 2 it ended early for him. Even though he made it back on the racetrack, he completed 5 laps less than the winner. Hamlin finished 32nd, and last but not least, 39th place, Joey Logano. Led 10 laps, started second, crashed out at the end of stage 1 on lap 59. He scored in the 39th place position. Now, Joey Logano was going to this race with some, possible chances of catching up to Hamlin in the points here. What would have happened if he made it to stage 1 and got those stage points and Hamlin still had that wreck? Logano probably would have been closer to Hamlin in the points lead than he would be just sitting in third.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the accident that happened. And Joe Logano had some very vivid comments about the nature of this kind of racing. This is not the first time. I don't know. Unfortunately, like it or not, this may not be the last time we have a conversation like this. But here's another case of a car getting up in the air, of aggressive pushing, just pack racing. The whole deal of racing at Talladega Superspeedway in a pack with everything on the line, and how little an error can take to just ruin everything and put someone at risk.
Yeah.
And once again, it's great to see Joey Logano get out of his car without any serious injuries, but he did mention it last year. Someone got really hurt from something like this. And of course, the driver and subject was Ryan Newman that he was mentioning in the interview after the crash. But I mean, to be fair, you can't ever win against aerodynamics. NASCAR has closed the gap with aerodynamics by putting up the roof flaps and restrictor plates and whatnot. But in the end, this is just going to be the product of pack racing.
There's just no way around it whatsoever. And until they find a solution, it's just going to keep happening.
Yeah. And also about this package, there's so many things with this package that I think it's kind of like, it's not going forward, it's like backwards. Like, the thing with the momentum, if you're drafting, you can't slow down. You saw Denny Hamlin was getting a shove from Ricky Stenhouse Jr. It's kind of hard with this package to slow down. That's one thing. Number 2 is, I know people like, oh, they need a little spoiler, but little spoiler or big spoiler, do you want to know what happens with the air?
Car gets looser.
Yeah.
No, not just that. It kicks the car up sometimes, and that's how Logano's car went upside down. All the air under it pushed the car over, and then the thing is about when Logano landed. Do you want to know what Logano said on the radio? The roof is killed. It's touching my head. That's how it caved in.
Yeah, that's really just hearing him say that on the radio.
Yeah,
it's really scary.
Yeah,
because if it would have been way worse, then it would have been
all it takes is one wrong hit.
Yeah,
we saw it last year at the Daytona 500 with Ryan Newman.
Like you thought Ryan Newman's was bad, but the thing is, Ryan Newman. I know he's Ryan Newman. The thing is, it did hit his head, but the thing
hit on 190 miles an hour.
Yeah, but you know Ryan Newman, he's not that tall. He's 5'11".
Yeah.
Joey Logano is 6'1".
Yeah.
He's taller, and it could have been worse. And NASCAR is investigating, and because it's just you don't want this to happen at every play track. Plus, this was not even at the end of the race. This was the end of stage 1.
That's going to bring me to my next point, guys, because stage racing, like it or not, this is for our 5th year with NASCAR's Top 3 Series having stage racing implemented. Yep. And one thing I've learned, especially at the tracks, Daytona and Talladega, at the closing laps of the stage, we see a lot of drivers who want a little more than they can already receive. They want to cash in on the championship. But guess what the expense is? Everybody else, including them. It takes one wrong move at the end of the stages, and we've seen it seems like a trend in NASCAR's top levels at Daytona, Talladega, at the closing laps of a stage, that a crash like this happens. And it just brings me to this crossroads as a fan. Do we want racing or do we want entertainment? And let other YouTubers discuss that, because we have a lot more racing to talk about here. But this is just what happens when someone gets aggressive too early in the race for some stage points, and ultimately it ended other people's days. Let's go ahead and talk about the point standings now. 10 races are finished in this 36 race championship. Denny Hamlin, despite the troubles, he's still the points leader. He has 446 points claimed so far. So that's an 87-point gap. Hamlin's still pulling away, despite being winless and being first in the championship.
Yeah.
And having a bad day. That says a lot about Hamlin's consistency. How
he just never gives up.
This could very well be his year. Martin Truex Jr. is second with 359 points, minus 87 from Denny Hamlin, Truex Jr.'s teammate. Joey Logano, who I mentioned earlier, could have had a very good points day had the end of stage 1 finish clean like Logano had hoped. He probably would have been higher than Truex Jr. and maybe have a shot at Hamlin going into Kansas for the points lead. But that's not going to be the case. Joey Logano is minus 93, actually closer to losing third in the championship to William Byron than he ever was at this point. Byron is fourth, minus 95. Ryan Blaney is fifth, minus 100. Sixth place, the winner, Brad Keselowski.
I was going to say Ted.
I don't know why I'm thinking about the owner of JTG Doherty Racing.
Oh, I don't think. No, Ted Geschecter does not drive, or there's no Ted Keselowski.
No. Let's see here. Kevin Harvick minus 138. Chase Elliott minus 140. The defending champions just in the top 10 in points. Kyle Larson had a miserable day. He really lost big in the points after completing less than 3 laps. Larson has 300 points flat, minus 146. And 10th place, Christopher Bell, minus 166. So the Cup Series will be back this weekend. We'll cover the Kansas 400 later on in this podcast.
Or the real weird title of this.
Yeah, we'll review that later.
Yeah.
All right. So that was Sunday. Now let's talk about what happened on Saturday. And it seemed like a very interesting race, and a lot of drivers, especially knowing how many finished on the lead lap, wished that it could have went the full 300-mile distance. That wasn't the case. The Talladega 300-mile race for the third time in a row has been won by Kaulig Racing, and for the first time in his career, Jeb Burton goes to victory lane. Jeb Burton won this race. Now, mind you, this was supposed to be 113 laps, but we completed 90 laps due to
rain.
Rain. I mean, the track was drivable, but darkness won the war.
Yeah, and also there was not just a light sprinkle; it was
It
heavy.
came down hard. It was the small cell. It seemed like there was more rain in the cell than the cell was expected to have.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, Jeb Burton goes to victory lane. Jeb Burton led 20 laps, started 9th, picked up his first career win. Congratulations to Jeb Burton. He worked so hard to finally break through and win in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, and he did the job.
Yep.
Second place, Austin Cindric. Austin Cindric led 24 laps, ironically more than anybody else, and that says a lot if you lead 24 laps and had the most laps led. Cindric started on pole position.
Yep.
Third place, AJ Allmendinger had an eventful day, but he brought it home third after starting 11th. Fourth place, Riley Herbst. Best finish, I think, so far for Herbst in his new team.
He's tied his best finish.
Yes.
He also got fourth.
Yeah, I was thinking about Phoenix. Fifth place, Ryan Sieg, the owner driver, led one lap, started 17th, and brought home in the top 5. I'm sure he's one of those many drivers that wish this race could have went on. And seriously, I put a lot of emphasis when I mean that. There were 31 cars that were on the lead lap when the race was called. So the race still had probably 75 to 80% of the field still able to win had the race continue.
Yeah.
Sixth place, Noah Gragson won stage 2. He led 8 laps, started 4th, so a very good points day for Noah Gragson, who's still trailing from the back in points. 7th place, Brandon Brown led 2 laps. Actually, he led 1 lap, started 18th, brought his car home in the 7th position. Justin Haley failed to do what Martin Truex Jr. did, but he still has a shot later this year to tie Truex Jr. for most wins at Talladega in the series, but he won't go 3 in a row, of course, like Truex Jr. did. Justin Haley led 2 laps, started 5th, finished 8th. Mike Snyder brought home in the top 10, led 3 laps and kept his car clean, brought it home 9th. And Harrison Burton rounded out the top 10. Harrison Burton started 3rd. He led 6 laps. I forgot to mention that Justin Haley did win stage 1. So look down the results and find Daniel Hemrick, who really was definitely one of those drivers I wish the race could have went on. Daniel Hemrick led 18 laps from the 2nd place starting spot to finish 12th. Looking down the results, Colby Howard led 3 laps, started 37th, brought it home 19th. 24th place, Natalie Decker brought her Our Motorsport Chevrolet to 24th place finish. That's Natalie's career best. Ryan Vargas finished 30th after leading 3 laps and starting 39th. And out of the race after leading 1 lap, finishing 39th, was Virginia's Jason White. So that's pretty much the scoop for the Xfinity race. It was more clean than not. I was very surprised to see the race be as fluid as it was, Justin and Danny, because usually we go to Talladega. We know the guys, especially in the lower series, are a little more inexperienced than the Cup Series drivers on Sunday.
Yeah.
But I was definitely surprised to see how well everybody, I don't want to say behaved, but really drove the track with everybody in between, not having the practice, not having the qualifying, doing this cold turkey.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's still going to be a lot of people having a hard time sleeping from the Xfinity garage over the way the race ended. A lot of teams had high hopes, had this race go on with 31 cars on the lead lap. Their drivers, who normally don't have a chance to finish in the top 10 or even win a race, will never get to know what could have happened. But at least for the most part, these teams got to leave the track with their cars able to run again for the near future.
Yeah.
We were not able to say the same thing last year, especially during the fall race.
Yeah, that was unfortunate.
Right. So, 8 races down in this 33 race Xfinity Series campaign. Austin Cindric is still the points leader. He has 367 points claimed so far, 59 points ahead of Daniel Hemrick. Third place, Harrison Burton has 275 points, minus 92. Fourth place, Jeb Burton leaps up to the fourth spot, minus 97, with 270 points. And fifth place, Justin Haley with 269 points, minus 98. Sixth place, AJ Allmendinger with 257 points, minus 110. Seventh place, Mike Snyder, minus 140, or minus 128. Eighth place, minus 146. Jeremy Clements. Ninth place, Noah Gragson, minus 150. And tied with Noah Gragson as well for 9th and 10th. So these guys have another off week. They don't come back until
Darlington.
the 8th of May. Yeah, for Darlington, a 200-mile race for the Xfinity Series. And now, I mean, this was a very quick month for the guys in NASCAR's second highest series. If you think about it, they had one race and then another race.
Yep.
Martinsville, and then here, Talladega.
But,
Right.
yeah. Yeah.
I think it's time for guys like Noah Gragson and Justin Allgaier to step it up.
Like, Allgaier has a win, which is good, but he has to be consistent. But Gragson sometimes runs good, but there's things that kind of, when he loses some races, like, some of it it's not his fault, but some of it it's some tracks he just gets in the people and destroys his car, which is not the best idea to do. But the thing about the Xfinity Series this season, like, they only had 2 races in April. In May, they go to Darlington, Dover, Coda, Charlotte. You have 4 races.
And 4 completely different tracks, different types of tracks.
Yeah, you go to the Lady in Black, the tough egg-shaped 1.336-mile oval. Then you go to the concrete track, the Monster Mile at Dover, 1-mile oval. They go to Coda, which is a new circuit, so it's going to be hectic.
For sure.
And then you got Charlotte.
Right.
Which, 1.5 miles, which they know how to drive 1.5 miles, but...
I mean, it's probably the most familiar 1.5 miles between all the Xfinity guys, just thinking about their records.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's basically...
But either way, you don't really get a break.
No.
Yeah, you really don't get a break.
Yep.
Well, I think that wraps up our NASCAR Xfinity Series discussion. I was thinking about just going into the other motorsports, but let's continue the Talladega topic going by bringing up the Arca race that happened as well. Because before we move on to the other motorsports, usually I leave Arca in a category of its own, but we'll just bring it up. 200 miles were raced on that same day. It's Saturday at Talladega Superspeedway. Yeah. And in the end, just like Daytona, Corey Heim for Toyota development driver, driving for the full season championship with Venerini Motorsports, picks up the win and really sets the tone for the season. He might just be the possible champion unless something or someone gets in the way of that, like Ty Gibbs.
Which Ty Gibbs could have had a good race, but we'll tell you what happened.
Yeah, you can't always get what you want, as the Rolling Stones say.
Yeah, and also at Talladega was not like last year's Talladega race.
Right. We had more cars this time, more competition. And this was round 3 of what is currently a 20-race tour for the Arca Menards Series, presented by Menards.
Hey, there was 29 cars that were entered.
Much more.
Not compared to Daytona's 33, 4 less. But it's better than the Kansas's entry list, which is only 19.
Right. I mean, that's your average entry list for these Arca races for the most part. But Corey Heim, unlike Daytona, he only led 5 laps. Heim started 4th and had an interesting last lap. Let's talk about this driver, though. Second place, I kid you not, Dave Maynard III at age 65 brought his car home in the second place spot. Now, Dave Maynard III... Mind you, I mean, these Arca stats, of course, they only go from 1979 present. He won the 1970 Snowball Derby, so I'm sure he ran more Arca races beforehand.
Right.
But Dave Maynard III's last ARCA win, according to Racing Reference, was Michigan in 1991. He drove a Buick for Clint Folsom. Now, his last second-place finish was that same year, 30 years ago, at Talladega Superspeedway. Ironically, he finished second to the late Charlie Glotzbach. Rest in peace, Charlie Glotzbach passed away last week at the age of 82. But he's never finished second since that race at Talladega. And now, Dave Maynard III, who seems to like to run the big tracks of the ARCA schedule on a part-time basis, I've seemed to notice.
Yeah.
It's still on his game. He did a great job. You gotta give credit to this gentleman driver. Racing against the stars of not just tomorrow, but the decades in the future.
Yeah.
Nick Sanchez was in the lead just for a moment in that final lap,
but he still got a good
inexperience
finish.
Got the best, I guess.
Yeah, but also
third place ain't bad.
Yeah, he's driving for the Rev Racing team owned by Max Siegel. It's their first full-time ARCA season. They're running also in the ARCA East with Raja Karuth. He runs that car in the ARCA East series, but the main ARCA championship. Nick Sanchez ran the number 6 entry in the ARCA East. He did really good in that entry last year in ARCA East, but he's impressed. I know he had a bad race at Phoenix, race 2, but he did a decent job in his Rev Racing entry.
Yeah, nearly picked up the win.
Yeah.
4th and 5th place led 28 laps each. Drew Dollar, last year's winner, and Brent Holmes, last year's series champion.
Yeah.
6th place Chad Moffitt.
Yeah.
7th place Andy Jankowiak. 8th place Kyle Sieg. 9th place, how about this? 9th and 10th place. Gonna give a shout out to Eric Cowdell, owner driver, and Scott Milton. 2 drivers are past their 50s, and they still can't keep up with the pack.
Yeah, like
good on them.
Like Scott Melton, people forget he's driving for Kimmel Racing, owned by Bill Kimmel, the brother of Frank Kimmel. His brother Bill's team, which that 69 used to be driven by mainly Will Kimmel, but sometimes Will Kimmel runs the dirt races in ARCA. But good run for that number 69. I know it's a nice number. Yeah, people would say that, but Eric Cottle, he also had a good run in his own number 7. But there was other moments in the race that there was not many. There was one big one.
I guess another major crash.
But you had the big one with Ty Gibbs, Greg Van Alls, which that's why Ty Gibbs was out of the race in this number 18 entry. But the wreck with Greg Van Alls in the trial, but the final wreck with 5 to go was
Derek Lancaster.
Oh,
and luckily our latest report is that he is in a recovery stage, listed in critical but stable condition. He was placed on a ventilator due to the amount of burns inhaling, so they want to prevent as much lung damage as possible at the University of Alabama Medical Burn Center. But so we all wish him for the best. Let's go down the race results. 11th place Jack Wood, 12th place Tony Brendinger, 13th place Ed Pompa, Ryan Huff 14th, Jason Kitzmiller 15th, Michael Harper for the Hillenberg team led 1 lap. He finished 16th. Thomas Prater, Brian Dozat, DL Wilson, Connick Lopez, your top 20. Benny Chastain, Gracie Trotter really never recovered from the tire rub. 23rd place, Derek Lancaster crashed out on lap 71. Luckily, he is, for the best news possible, that he is recovering from the burns he sustained. Lancaster led 1 lap. He's an owner driver, mind you. No factory support from Toyota. Age 48, he's just another case of doing it because he wants to.
And also, he's good at plate tracks. I remember.
He was good at Daytona. I don't know if you remember.
I also remember him back in 2016. He ran his own number 83. He was caught up in 2 wrecks in the opener. He was in the first wreck on lap 3 with Cole Powell, but then crashed out when Matt Krzyzewski couldn't pass Mark Thompson, and they all wrecked. He was in his number 83 entry back then. But he did run really good in that number 29 entry.
Yeah. And looking down the results, Tim Richmond finished 24th. Richard Garvey, 25th. Greg Van Alst, another gentleman driver who had a good showing before the wreck, 25th or 26th. Ty Gibbs led 13 laps. He had a car to beat. Started from pole, but was involved in that crash and retired on lap 61, finishing 27th. John Ferrier had a crash as well, finishing 28th. And Brad Smith with a vibration problem on lap 51. Round out your 29 car field.
Wait, where did Con Nicolopoulos finish?
P20.
Wow, top 20. No, that's not his best finish, I don't think, but
we're talking about a 29 car field, Justin.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, it's like, well, Con Nicolopoulos. Well, it's like I know people make fun of small teams, like that one time me and Joseph mocked Con Nicolopoulos being 9 seconds off of Riley Herb's practice lap at Michigan. I know 49 seconds at Michigan is not the best lap time compared to 40 seconds. Yeah, but it was a interesting event. It was not like last year's race, which
that was a wild finish to what was more of a lackluster race, but this time around it was more of an eventful race.
Oh my gosh, I was wrong about Con Nicolopoulos' best ARCA finish. He got a top 10 at Winchester last year. I forgot he got 10th at Winchester.
Well, there were like 12 cars in the race.
Oh, maybe that's kind of sad.
Well, let's go into the point standings, though. 3 races are complete. Corey Heim has 138 points to his name with the points lead going into this championship. Drew Dollar, although he's still not 100% on racing the full schedule, unless I'm mistaken, is second with 124 points. Kyle Sieg is third with 115 points. Fourth place, he really dropped back with 107 points, is Ty Gibbs, and Tab Moffitt fifth with 103 points. So they'll be back this weekend as part of the race weekend at Kansas Speedway for the Cup Series event.
There was an update today for Derek Lancaster I just saw.
Go ahead.
They said, Derek, he's still in critical but stable condition, but doctors are decreasing the sedation as they wean him off the ventilator, and he's starting to open it. He's opening his eyes.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That is the best news yet.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's it for ARCA. They'll be back.
Yep.
Yeah, like I mentioned,
Kansas
will be round Saturday. 4 of 20.
Yep. Oh my gosh, 4 of 20.
All right, so I think that's it for ARCA. Let's move on to IndyCar. We had a very eventful day for the first street circuit race of the 2021 campaign at the streets of St. Petersburg in St. Petersburg, Florida, for the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg.
Yep.
Round 2 of a 17-race tour, and it was won by none other than Colton Herta. Could you really be surprised at this performance? The moment he got pole position, it seemed like he had the race in his hands, and sure it was a 100-lap race, 97 laps led by Colton Herta, most laps led, points go to him.
Yep.
Starting from the pole, 5th career pole, his 4th career win, and his 5th career podium. Colton Herta doing what he does best. This was the first street circuit of the season. Last year was the only street circuit of the season. We have more street circuits along the way other than this.
I don't know.
At the time of this podcast, the next race will be Belle Isle, a doubleheader for street circuits.
June 12th, June 13th.
June 12th, June 13th. At the time of this podcast, Toronto, Honda Indy Toronto is still on the schedule. July 11th. I mean, I hope I'm wrong.
But we'll
that
just have
the race will be replaced, but it's still there. Round 11. That's on the 11th of 7-Eleven Day. Get a free Slurpee.
And then after that, then on the 8th of August, Nashville. Not Nashville Super Speedway for people, the street circuit, Nashville. And then would be Long Beach.
Another race I'm really contemplating whether or not it's going to happen. But I hope it happens.
Yeah, but it was Colton Herta.
Colton Herta, he was on a different universe. I don't know where was he driving a bullet bill from Mario Kart the entire race? But he was just so outstanding.
Yeah, Andretti brought him a good car.
Absolutely.
Which I know that people are like, I know Colton Herta, he's a good driver.
I mean, last week he never really got the chance to show his skills being in that lap 1 crash.
But
this time around, he actually has the opportunity to shine, and he did.
But also, it was the first time in a while since the number 26 from Andretti won. Because they had decent drivers. Like, their last decent driver before Zach Veach was Munoz back in 2017. But the thing is, 2017.
Marco.
No, 26 car was Sato in 2017.
Oh.
That was the last win.
Yeah, Sato won the Indy 500 with them.
Yeah, that's the last time the 26 went to victory lane. Then you had Zach Veach, which Zach Veach was decent, but he did
not enough.
Yeah, his pace was sometimes like slow,
like outer top 10.
Yeah, but Colton Herta just was like in another zip code.
Oh, for sure. Second place was Joseph Newgarden. Now, Joseph Newgarden won last year's race and the year before at the St. Pete Grand Prix. Started third and picked up his 36th career podium. Third place, Simon Pagenaud led 1 lap to finish third after starting fourth. Pagenaud picked up his 36th career podium as well. Fourth place, Jack Harvey started second, brought home 4th. Great run for the British driver. Fifth place, Scott Dixon started 8th, finished 5th. Takuma Sato, 6th. The Japanese driver started 15th. Marcus Ericsson started 16th to finish 7th. Will Power finished 8th after starting 20th. Rinus VK, 9th place finish after starting 7th. And my pick, Sebastian Bourdais, after starting 5th, he brought home 10th.
Yeah,
no third win for Seb.
I also picked him because I thought he was going to have... He had a decent car, but...
In fact, he even finished this race altogether is a surprise on some because the car was already refusing to cooperate from the very get-go. He had to, catch the pacing line and was lucky the IndyCar officials even allowed him to start his qualified position. All right, let's move down to the finishing results. Scott McLaughlin finished 11th, his career best in the IndyCar so far. Scott finished 11th after starting 14th, so good run for the Kiwi. 12th place, Felix Rosenquist after starting 17th. They brought home 12th. Not the best run for Aaron McLaren SP. We've seen better runs for sure. 13th place, Roman Grosjean. Grosjean started 18th in his entry. 14th place, Ryan Hunter-Reay, the 2012 champion, started 13th. Graham Rahal, who won this race in 2008, started 9th and just never went ahead of his starting spot. Connor Daly finished 3 spots ahead of his starting position, finishing 16th. Alex Palou, who won round 1 at Barber Motorsports Park for the Alabama Grand Prix, picked up the fastest lap, led 2 laps and started 10th, but his pit strategy that had to be bold, hoping for a safety car, never worked in his favor, so he's going to finish 17th in this case. James Hinchcliffe, 18th. Pato Award, like I mentioned, 19th place. We have seen better runs from him before. Alexander Rossi had trouble, had to finish 21st. Jimmy Johnson, 22nd, ran into some trouble as well. Dalton Kellett finished 23rd after the AJ Foyt driver from Canada had an engine failure, and Max Chilton, the Carlin driver from Great Britain, had a hydraulics failure. Wow. So there's 2 races down in the books, and we have another stretch coming along before the end of the pre-Indy 500 month portion of the season. Usually it's a quick few races within the Indy 500 month this year.
Yeah,
Alex Palou is still the points leader. Even though he had a rough day, you lead a lap, you do get a point. I think an extra point if you lead the most laps in IndyCar racing. So he has the points lead, just a 2-point margin, 67 points claimed for Palou. Will Power is second with 65 points, tied with Scott Dixon, -2. Fourth place, Colton Herta leaps up to the fourth spot with 62 points. Fifth place, Simon Pagenaud with 54 points. Tied for sixth, seventh, and eighth with 51 points is Jack Harvey, Rinus VK, and Sebastian Bourdais. Ninth place in the point standings with 50 points is Marcus Ericsson, and 10th place is the two-time champion Joseph Newgarden with 47 points. So they have 2 races this weekend, the first oval trip of the season and the last of the pre-Indy 500 month portion of the season, of course, being the Texas Motor Speedway doubleheader for rounds 3 and 4 of the 17 race tour. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a while, but is this the time where these IndyCar drivers really have to get their game on?
I feel it is because, like, I know most of the season is road courses, but the thing is, there's not many ovals this year. Other than the 2 races at Texas, you got the Indy 500 and Gateway. That's the only oval races this season. So that's 3 ovals, 4 races. And there's some tracks that are easier than others. Gateway's not that bad. Indy's not that bad. The problem, like, for some drivers is Texas. With this new configuration, Texas...
Yeah, we've noticed it has favored everybody since the 2017 reconfiguration.
But, like, sometimes, like, Texas is sometimes good, or it could be a wreck fest. It's basically because you got, like, literally... You could, like, you have, like...
All you have to do is get up the groove, and there goes your race. Yeah,
like,
by the way, there's a good chance that you may not be able to race in the next race. If that problem occurs in race 1, depending on the team you're driving for, it might be the end of your weekend.
Like, literally, like, the thing
we'll talk a little bit more about this race, when we go into the preview, but
it's like, you got to just preserve your car.
Absolutely.
You don't want to make a kamikaze dive or the 2017 situation. Remember the
James Hinchcliffe,
or remember the Ganassi cars. Dixon and Canon kept squeezing people. Oh, I remember Rossi was not too happy with them, and Hinchcliffe. Oh my god! So basically, don't try to be a sandwich. Don't try to squeeze people to cause a big one. That's not what people want.
All right, so I think that's enough for our IndyCar conversation. We will continue on that later. Now let's talk some Formula E, shall we? Very interesting racing we had overseas for the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship, not World Endurance Championship. We're not there yet. No. Valencia ePrix. We had a doubleheader. By the way, last time we came here, this was a 10-race season. Now it's a 15-race season. So let's discuss that. By the way, there were some changes, additions to the Formula E calendar. Let me list that down before we go to the results here. So obviously, things have changed. We have, after the Monaco ePrix on the 19th and 20th of June, we have the Puebla ePrix at Mexico. Now, I'm surprised we're not going to Hermanos Rodriguez, knowing the fact that it's a closed circuit just like Puebla, but it is what it is. They'll stay in America. I guess it's an American tour because the New York City ePrix is back on the Brooklyn Street Circuit on the 10th and 11th of July. Then on the 24th and 25th of July, the London ePrix is back at the streets of London at Excel. It's an exhibition convention center where the race is held. And then the Berlin ePrix at the Tempelhof Airport Street Circuit, which was the host a closing batch of races from last year just for the sake of completing the season, is back to, I guess, close the season if it's going to end at 15 races this year. All right, let's talk about what happened in this past weekend. So we're going to go break it down to race 1 and then race 2. Race 1 was a very interesting turn of events. Nyck de Vries won, but a lot of drivers and teams were very furious at the FIA after this one. I'll explain why. It was pretty feisty, but Nyck de Vries pulled out an upset win for sure. He was not a factor at all in this race. If your name, of course, wasn't Antonio Felix da Costa, then you really should not have been the winner. Nyck de Vries won. Nico Mueller for Dragon Penske finished second. Third place, Stoffel Vandoorne, so double podium for Mercedes. Fourth place, Nick Cassidy for the Virgin Audi. Audi factory driver Rene Rast. Sixth place, Robin Freins. Now, Robin Freins did pick up the fastest lap, so he gets an extra bonus point along with his points for finishing sixth. Lucas de Grassi finished seventh in his Audi. Jake Dennis for the Andretti BMW I Andretti finished eighth. Jean-Eric Vernet finished ninth. Now, Jean and Diaz Techeetah was at least a little lucky. He did get the last point. Now, mind you, he was 4 minutes and 19 seconds off the pace. The podium celebrations were over by the time he crawled across the finish line. That's how bad it was. The amount of lack of energy these teams had, the lack of energy at the final release of the safety car was just insane. Now, who got points out of this without finishing in the points-paying positions? Well, Antonio Felix da Costa, who was disqualified for being over the regulatory limit, picked up 3 points for scoring the pole position. Behind him, Alex Lynn in the Mahindra car was disqualified for the very same reason. But he picked up 1 point for being fastest in his group stage. Now, what happened? Why was everybody out of the race from position 9 all the way to the end?
The thing about what the I was about to say IMSA. I don't know why my brain's thinking IMSA in my head. In Formula E, it's electrical cars. If you didn't already know that. The thing about it, which I don't. The thing about it, a rule in Formula E, you gotta end the race with power. You can't have zero. I don't know why that's a thing. It's so
there's so many energy conservation rules, little rules about energy conservation that's placed into the Formula E race. There's attack mode and other things too. There's a fan boost. It's hideous, but what it is.
Literally, this is just it was so people running out of power. And literally, it was so weird. I'm like, what? I was so confused. People, and also the thing with the safety cars, you lose power under safety cars. I don't know why.
The power meter goes down as soon as this race begins.
Yeah, but you lose.
It's not like saving fuel under safety car where you can just coast.
But on the safety car, you lose more than in the race, so you lose quite a bit. You got to preserve it, which Nyck de Vries did. Literally, in the results, if you look at the results, after ninth place Jean-Eric Vergne, you see the two Neos of Turvey and Blomqvist not classified. Norman Nato not classified. But then you go all the way down to Oliver Rowland, disqualified. Sims, disqualified. DaCosta, disqualified. Lynn, disqualified. And then Sam Bird, disqualified. Because of that. It's really?
Sometimes I'll never understand the meaning behind an FIA sanctioned ruling decision.
Right as I saw that, I'm like, whoa. And then they updated it. Yeah. Nico Mueller for Drell. Oh my God. Just that race was what?
It was a hideous show, but race 2 was a much more fluid as it should.
Yeah.
And also, we didn't have the weather being in the way for race 2 either.
Yeah.
How about this? Jake Dennis picked up his first career win for BMW Andretti Motorsport after picking up the pole position and the point for the group stage. So he gets +3 and +1. That's 4 bonus points along with this win. Well done for Jake Dennis. Second place, Andre Lauderer for Porsche. Lauderer started 5th to bring it home on the podium. And Alex Lynn picked up a bonus point for the fastest lap and ends up on the podium in his Mahindra machine. 30 laps complete in this one. 4th place, Ollie Rowland for Nissan E-Doms. 5th place, Norman Nato. 6th place, Rene Rast. 7th place, Jean-Eric Verne. 8th place, Oliver Turvey. 9th place, Eduardo Martara. And 10th place, Lucas de Grassi were your points finishers. Now, 6 races done. I think we're about halfway through at this point. So a little less than halfway through.
Yeah.
After Monaco, we will. The point standings, Nyck de Vries takes the championship lead. 57 points so far for Nyck de Vries. Mercedes teammate Stoffel Van Dorn is second with 48 points. 3rd place after a miserable weekend, Sam Bird ties Robin Freins with 43 points for 3rd and 4th. 5th place and 6th place are tied with 39 points each. Mitch Evans and Rene Rast. Jean-Eric Verne and Jake Dennis tie for 7th and 8th with 33 points. 9th and 10th place are also tied with Eduardo Martara and Pascal Verline. In the team's championship standings, every team has claimed points after 6 races. Mercedes EQ Formula E team leads by a very comfortable margin already with 105 points over Jaguar Racing. Jaguar Racing had a weekend to forget, 82 points. They scored no points at all this entire weekend.
Wow.
3rd place, Envision Virgin Racing, 58 points. 4th place, DS Tachita with 57 points. And 5th place, the Audi Sport ABT Schaeffler Formula E team with 52 points. So, these guys get a break, and as of this current podcast, the only sole race of the entire season is on the 8th of May at the Streets of Monaco, and I see that race is going to happen. Knowing that they're having GP Historic over there, Monaco Street Circuit in Monte Carlo, that gives me a lot of hope for everything proceeding as normal as it should in Monaco. And plus, they depend on the race anyways. They need it for the city. Yeah. So, round 7 of 15, the Monaco ePrix on the 8th of May. Yeah. So these guys get an off weekend. Justin, can we agree with the fact that Formula E has been one of the most entertaining racing series of 2021?
It is. It has been interesting races. Many penalties. It's like people say, oh, F1 has too many penalties. Almost every minute you see a penalty notification from the FIA for Formula. I'm like, what? Yeah. It's been an interesting season so far for Formula E.
Yeah, it has. All right, I think that's enough for our Formula E discussion. Let's go ahead and talk about some endurance sports car racing. There was one event that happened over the weekend in terms of significant races for endurance sports car racing. And what can I say about this team? They've just been so good. Herberth Motorsport Porsche came in clutch once again, the Asia Le Mans Series GT3 champions, mind you, which I believe they have an invitation in the 24 Hours of Le Mans this year. Came in clutch once again. Number 91, Herberth Motorsport Porsche 911 GT3R with drivers, the twin brothers, Alfred and Robert Renauer, Ralf Bohn, and Daniel Allemann win the 24H Series Hankook 12 Hours of Paul Ricard. So Circuit Paul Ricard in Le Castellet, France, the site of the French Grand Prix in recent years. And it was an interesting race. By the way, this was a 12-hour race from the start to finish. It wasn't a two-part deal with 2 days in between, or like we saw at Mugello. But Herberth Motorsport, they are now 2 for 3 in 2021 with the overall wins, doing a brilliant job, completing 315 laps, being on a lap of their own. 1 lap deficit was between first and second. So in second place, and we're going to go class to class here. We'll talk about the top 5 in each class and in the overall finishing orders. Second place in the GT3 AM class, and in overall was the number 11 Middle Cap Racing with Scuderia Praha Ferrari 488 GT3 Evo. Actually, the car that started on pole with Joseph Kral's lap time, the Czechoslovakian team, because it's a team owned by the Czech Republic with a Czech driver and 2 from Slovakia. We have Matthias Weber and his brother Miroslav Weber behind the wheel of that car as well. But Joseph Kral put on some really good lap times. Knowing the former GP2 driver, I think there's a lot of reason why he is selected to drive this team. So take it as you will. Third place and fourth place were Audis. Audis just didn't seem to have the ball. Maybe they didn't have the factory drivers either. But number 18 were Ronick Racing by TECE, Audi R8 LMS Evo with drivers Michael Doppelmayr, Ella Earhart, Sven Herberger, and Pierre Kaffer. Finished third on the podium, 4 laps off the leader. And fourth place overall and in class was the number 34 Car Collection Motorsport Audi R8 LMS Evo with drivers Milan Donche, Tim Mueller, Pierre Yves Pak, and Robin Rogalski. So let's move on before we go into the other classes. I just want to mention 5th place in class 6 overall was the number 20 SPS Automotive Performance Mercedes AMG GT3 Evo with Christian Hook, Valentin Pierberg, and Stefan Gorig. So let's move on to the next class in order, and that was, of course, the GTX class winners. Finishing 5th overall, completing 306 laps, was the number 724 Reiter Engineering KTM Crossbow GTX concept. Yes, the race car put together by a motorcycle manufacturer. That's one thing I love about the KTM Crossbow.
Oh, yeah, I picked them. I just remembered I picked that car in class.
Yes, and they got the job done with drivers Ike Angermeyer, Nikolai Anglauden, Horst Felbermeyer Jr., and Mads Seelgehag drove that car to class victory, finishing 5th overall. There were 4 cars in class, so I'm just going to go off the GTX. Many laps behind in second place in the GTX class was the number 979 Speed Lover Porsche 992 GT3 Cup. Now, it doesn't have the requirements yet to be part of either the GT3 class or the 991 class, so they were put in the GTX class for the custom GT cars that are not, in a category.
Yeah.
For the other categories. Those drivers for the Speed Lover number 979 was Gil Smits, Jackson Verhoeven, and Jean-Pierre Verhoeven. They have 2 different nationalities. I wouldn't be shocked if they aren't related. But yeah, second in class, 8th overall. Third place in the GTX class was the number 701 and 712 Vortex V8s. And I love the Vortex team because they have their own cars built from the ground up. It's their own team. It's their own car. They put together hands up with their own hands from scratch. The 701 car that finished on the class podium, Olivier Gomez, Bastien Guret, and Philippe Girard in the 701. And in the 712, we had Nikolai Knob, Pierre Fontaine, and Philippe Bonnell behind the wheel of the car. So good run for them. Let's move on to the Porsche 991 Cup class. This is a one-make category, the Porsche 991 class. Everybody runs the Porsche 991 GT3 2 Cup car. 7th place overall was the site of the finishing position for the 991 class winner with the number 911 Porsche Lorient Racing team. They completed 294 laps. In this category, only 3 cars showed up for the 991 class. All French lineup, team based in France, not too far from the track, with Lionel Amrouche, Frederic Ansel, Frederic Olivier, and Philippe Paulet. behind the wheel of the Porsche. Second place in the 991 Cup class was the number 909 Duvo Racing with the Luxembourg team with the all-Russian lineup, completing 268 laps. Andrei Rugovas, Sergei Pedrogov, and Santislav Sidorik behind the wheel of that machine. And third place, the final car in the 991 Cup class was the number 978 Speed Lover Porsche with Eric Muyes, Olivier Dawn, and Dominique Bastien driving that vehicle. Now, I would go to the next class, but let's just talk about GT4 real quick because there were only two cars that showed up in the class as well. It was a one-sided race, unfortunately, due to a mechanical failure. But in the end, it was the number 401 Pro Sport Performance AMR German team with all Belgian drivers finishing 20th overall, completing 204 laps. They were the last car to be classified in this event in terms of the overall scale.
Wow.
Rodrigue Gilliam, Kurt Henson, and Nico Verdonk drove the Aston Martin Vantage AMR GT4 to class victory over the number 438 ST Racing BMW M4 GT4 with the head gasket failure, completing only 59 laps. It really wasn't much of a race in terms of class battles with Samantha Tate, John Miller, and Chandler Hull.
I just realized me and you both picked the 438. It's kind of weird. When I picked them and you picked the other car, they get a victory. But when we both pick the 438, nope, they don't finish the race.
Just can't control car problems or any kind of mechanical failures. That's just the nature of racing. Let's go back and talk about the TCE series. The 24H series TCE division was in this race. First and second, congratulations to Autorama Motorsport by Wolf Power Racing. The Volkswagen Golf GTI TCR program. It's factory supported, by the way. They were within 287 laps for the winning car, number one, and the 112 car that finished second was one lap behind. The number one car was driven by Emil Heyerdahl, Konstantin Kletzer, Yannick Mettler, and Jerome Ogai, winning the TCR class and the TCE division. Second place, of course, as I mentioned, the 112 car, the sister car to the winning vehicle. Drivers in that car were Fabian Dans, Reese Lloyd, Marlon Menden, and Yannick Mettler. So, yeah, Yannick Mettler drove both the 1 and the 112.
Yeah.
Third place in TCR was the number 188 AC Motorsport Audi RS3 LMS TCR with drivers David Dermott, Mathieu Derry, and Stefan Perrin. Fourth place in the TCR class, I'm going to list all of them because there were just six, was the number 123 Tic Cap Talk Car Sport, Cupra Leon TCR, the French team with the French lineup, Jorge Belloc Diaz, Jorge Belloc Ruiz, and Alvaro Rodriguez Sastri, the drivers in that car, just outside class podium. Fifth place in the TCR class, and sixth place that the two did not finish the race. The number 101 car, the team that won last race, the 12 Hours of Mugello, the family team, Red Camel, Jordans.NL, Cooper Leon TCR, actually finished behind in sixth. I'll just list them anyways with Evo, Luke, and Rick Breukers. Actually, they finished behind the RC2 junior team by Cabra Racing, Cooper Leon competition version of the TCR. So it's a different version of the Cooper Leon in their case. They actually finished fifth in class. So I take that back. Drivers Philippe Rubin and Victor Fernandez, all family team right there. And last but not least, the TC X class only had two cars show up, but in this case, they actually got to finish the race. And the TCX class winner was the, how about this? All French wound up winning at home. Nordschleifer Racing Ligier JS2R. That's a lesser known race car. It's a nice vehicle. Drivers Daniel Wachowski, Guilherme Roman, and Jerry Konkdali drove number 226 to P1 in class. And, of course, the CWS Engineering Ginetta G55 Super Cup with Colin White, Jean-François Bruno, and Jean-Marc Littman in that vehicle as well. They completed 227 laps. They were both laps apart in class. So, yeah, very interesting race. I think the one problem that really could have made this race better was the start. And I want to really highlight something that had a lot of controversy going on in the pits area because Kessel Racing showed up for this event.
Yeah.
They're one of the more well-known GT teams with their Ferrari program, factory-supported Ferrari, mind you. The all-Italian lineup with Nicolai Pradi, Alessandro Gutierrez, Leonardo Maria Del Vecchio, also known as LMDV, Marco Freccia, and Marco Tallarico behind the wheel of that car. They completed 0 laps as a result of number 58, Thomas Gostner's really avoidable mistake on the opening lap when he plowed into the 8 on the first turn of the first lap of a 12-hour race. And there was a lot of talk in the paddock about just racing licenses and all that. Was it really just a case of just racing, or is there a reason to be upset in an endurance race being taken out so early?
I don't know. Like I know that people are like rubbing's racing, but the thing is, it was turn 1 in a 12-hour race. You don't have to be that aggressive that early.
Yeah, well, you on lap 1 can never win you a 12-hour race. And I guess that's just what, these drivers have to learn. But yeah, in terms of the 24H series, this is not the end of sports car racing that we'll cover in the near future. But in terms of this series, these guys have about a little less than a month off. They'll come back for the 12 hours of Hockenheim Ring on the 22nd and 23rd of May for round 4 of 8. So we'll be already halfway through the season in the 24H series. It's been a good showing this year. Definitely better than last year in terms of car count. But yeah, let's move along and talk about another form of racing. The others category. We already talked about ARCA, so if you want to hear our takes about the ARCA race, go rewind this podcast, go to the early portions where we talked about NASCAR.
Yeah.
But yeah, the AMA Supercross season is coming to a close. Salt Lake City Part 1, round 16 to 17 over the weekend. It was Marvin Musquin for KTM. He did not have a good season this year, but managed to get a victory. So some good self-confidence going into the end of the season. Finishing second, Musquin's KTM teammate Cooper Webb battling for a championship. Very important second-place run here. Malcolm Stewart third. Yamaha teammate Dylan Ferrandis fourth. Honda's Chase Sexton fifth, and Ken Roczen sixth. Ken Roczen definitely needed a better run than sixth, but he's still mathematically able to catch the championship trophy going into this last race. At this point, Cooper Webb, 362 points. Ken Roczen, 340 points. That's a 22-point difference here, Justin.
Yeah.
Is it pretty much over for Ken Roczen at this point? Unless...
It's basically, he just kind of needs Cooper Webb to have a bad race. Basically, he'll have to win, possibly. And
have to do everything perfect. And Cooper Webb will probably have to not even make it, fall out of the LCQ or something.
Yeah, but it's not about Cooper Webb. He's a really successful driver, so it's going to be hard for him to try to get the championship.
Right. So, yeah, Salt Lake City 2 is this weekend, round 17 and 17 to close off a very exciting and action-packed dirt bike championship. Yeah. All right, let's move on to some of the upcoming races. We'll talk to NASCAR. We'll get into the NASCAR Truck Series. Racing Kansas Speedway this weekend. Formula One is back. Portuguese Grand Prix. We'll discuss a little bit of some of the changes in F1. IndyCar's first oval of the season, Texas Motor Speedway, for rounds 3 and 4 of 17. We have 2 sports car races coming up this weekend that we'll discuss. The also important FIA World Endurance Championship, 6 hours of Spa, round 1 of 6 this weekend. Remember, this is a big step to take before making your way into the 24 hours of Le Mans. And the NLS, formerly known as VLN series at Nürburgring for NLS 3, round 3 of 9, upcoming this weekend. Let's get started, as we always do, with NASCAR for Justin, you can do the honors of saying how stupid this name is. It's stupidly funny.
Okay, the race sponsor I know was Busch Beer. Did a contest basically to pick the race name. The fans decided on the Bushy McBush race 400. I don't know.
It sounds hideous, man. It sounds like Bushy McBush.
But I wonder what happens if Mike Joy says every time.
I'd be like having a name like Donald McDonald, you know?
That would be weird. Every time we come back from commercial, Mike Joy says we're here live at Kansas for the Bushy Big Bush race 400. It's just like a weird sponsor. Like at Talladega, Geico is more a normal name than.
Yeah, it's a proper race sponsor, but this is just ridiculous.
Well, but like the Truck Series, they have an actual sponsor with Wise Power. The Wise Power 200 sounds better than the Bushy McBush Race 400. It's just like, why?
All right, let's get started with NASCAR.
Yeah, like.
Okay, so Kansas Speedway, remember last year's spring race was moved all the way to the middle of July due to the pandemic.
Yep.
And the fall race was held as scheduled. So last year's winner, Denny Hamlin and Joey Logano, both involved in the championship fight towards the end. I guess this is a good way of foreshadowing who might be in the championship with the way the winners come out from Kansas being a good threat in the championship. In 2001, believe it or not, 20 years ago, was the first race that was held at Kansas Speedway. Jeff Gordon took the win en route to it, winning a championship, ironically, as I mentioned. But it seems like no one can break through the 3-win barrier at Kansas Speedway. The most wins, say a 6-way tie between Jeff Gordon, Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick, Jimmy Johnson, and Joey Logano for win. So we can see the 4-win record start this weekend just by the performance of these drivers that are still there, of course, in that list. 2 wins, Greg Biffle, Matt Kenseth, Brad Keselowski, Tony Stewart, and Martin Truex Jr. Now, in terms of team wins for the spring, Joe Gibbs Racing holds that number with 4 wins. Hendrick Motorsports and Team Penske tie with 2 wins. In terms of manufacturers in the spring race, Toyota leads that with 5 wins. Over Chevrolet and Ford, they share 2 wins, and Dodge has 1 win. So there are your numbers. It sounds all recent because the spring race is actually newer than the fall race at Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
So with the numbers there, what is it to expect going into this race? So, like, what do you think these drivers have in mind? Who are the best picks? Live chat. I want to hear your picks.
I got mine. Okay, this driver, I know his stats are not the best compared to what it would usually be.
Sure.
This driver, he's ran a total of 11 starts at Kansas Speedway. He has 0 wins, 2 top 5s, 5 top 10s, 7 top 20s, 76 laps led, an average start of 18.3, average finish of 18.09. His worst finish is 43rd with a DNF. His best finish, P2. He has a win this year already. Driver the number 48, Alex Bowman, will get win number 2 this season at Kansas and actually win at Kansas and redeem himself because last year he got 3rd. He's been so close to win at this track. And I feel like this season he could do it.
Last year, Denny Hamlin picked up the win in the first race at Kansas. He's in the points lead. This is his track. He'll be the first driver to win 4 races at Kansas. Denny Hamlin will take the checkered flag on Sunday.
Okay.
All right, so I think that's it for the Cup Series. Now let's move on to the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series at Kansas Speedway for a 200-mile race. It's round 7 of 22. Last year's winners were Austin Hill, Matt Crafton, and Brent Moffitt.
Yeah.
In 2001, the first race was held, won by the late Ricky Hendrick. Who has the most wins? Well, Matt Crafton now does after that win last year. He has 3 wins at this track. Kyle Busch, 2 wins. Kyle Busch might be able to change that this weekend. He's going to be in the race. most team wins, it's actually tied between the team that Kyle Busch drives and the team Matt Crafton drives. Kyle Busch Motorsports and Thorsport Racing tie with 4 wins each in this event by teams. And in terms of manufacturers, Toyota has 9 wins. Possibly that could be stopped by Chevrolet, who has 8 wins, and Ford with 5 wins.
Okay.
A lot of active teams out there. And I forgot to mention the teams that beneath Kyle Busch Motorsports and Thorsport Racing that have multiple wins are teams that are no longer in the series. 3 from Roush Fenway Racing, 2 from Kevin Harvick Incorporated. So now the numbers are there.
Okay, I got my pick. Okay, I'll tell you. This driver, he's only made 3 starts. He has 0 wins, 0 top 5s, 2 top 10s, 3 top 20s. His average start is 8.7. His worst finish here is 11th. His average finish is 8.67. He has 0 wins this season, but he's won it before in his career. Driver with the number 21, Zane Smith, is going to win at Kansas and redeem himself from last fall. But yeah, 8.67. That's a good average finish to have in 3 starts.
I think it's best to go with the best possible pick out there. Kyle Busch is going to take the win at Kansas Speedway. It's not going to be easy, but he'll get it done.
Well, you have his teammate John Hunter Nemechek and Chandler Smith.
It's true. They seem to outperform Kyle on occasion.
Yeah. And you also have Matt Crafton. Can Johnny Sauter actually get a good finish? But there's 41 trucks that were entered. The DNQ. Trey Hutchinson. He's the only truck with 0 points. Because Ryan Reed's running again in the 49. For Race Cicerelli, we know that he's not going to be a contender in the race. The 49's never a contender. A contender to be the first lap truck.
Maybe. Okay. Let's go ahead and carry on to Formula One, shall we? Of the Portuguese Grand Prix this upcoming weekend at Algarve Circuit in Portimao, Portugal, also known as the Portimao Circuit, the capital of Portugal. That is. It's an interesting track. I mean, it ran only 1 race last year, but nonetheless, we had a race and it was held in front of 27,000 fans. Probably the highest attendance, if I'm not mistaken, during the entire World Championship last year. They got to watch Lewis Hamilton make history in that race. Well, he was the winner last year. This is round 3 of the 23 Race World Championship. Who was the first race in the World Championship at Portugal? It was won by Sir Sterling Moss, the late Sterling Moss, in 1958. Who has the most wins at Portugal? 3 wins for these 2 drivers, Alain Prost and Nigel Mansell, 2 world championships alike, and another world championship, or the driver who was considered the best never to win the championship, Sterling Moss, who won 2 times. Now, in terms of the world championship record of races at at Portugal for constructors, Williams holds the number 6 for the most wins, McLaren 3, Ferrari and Cooper share 2 wins each. So, of course, you can see how long it's been since last year's race and everything in between beforehand, different tracks, different venues. With the drivers that we have today in the World Championship, knowing that there's a 1-point difference between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. Well, guys, Justin and the people that have that number 3 in the live audience, what do you guys all think about this whole deal with Max Verstappen? Is he a threat? Could this be the race today? It's interestingly enough that Christian Horner said that if Max Verstappen does what he did in the first 2 races once again in round 3, then we're going to have a championship battle at stake here.
Yeah, but the thing is, we could have a championship battle, but the thing is, the conditions are probably going to be better than Imola, but the thing is, there's some tracks that Mercedes still has better pace than the Red Bull. And like Bahrain, it was more Red Bull's pace, and Imola, same thing. But I think Portimao might be one of Mercedes' best shots. Last year they had a good car, and they still do. Maybe they're going to try everything. Maybe they're not going to have one of their drivers, Valtteri Bottas, choke. But it's like, it's going to be close. But the thing is, one thing that Max doesn't want to do, he doesn't want to have a mistake. He doesn't want to make mistakes and be out of the race. Like, Lewis Hamilton, a thing that his advantage is, like, one thing is if Lewis just, like, if a thing that Mercedes wants is Lewis to get a good start. Mm-hmm. Because he could get a pole. Like, Mercedes still has pace to win a pole. You saw what happened at...
without a doubt, Justin. Without a doubt. Mercedes will have the best time.
Yeah. But I feel like Lewis, if he could just, like... If they could get a good start, it's going to help. But it's going to be close. It's basically don't make mistakes. Because there's some points where Lewis is better in a lap than Max. Like, remember during the race at, the last race at Imola? Some points, Lewis was gaining a lot of time. There's some points of a lap where Lewis is better than Max.
And what did Lewis Hamilton get at Imola that Max Verstappen almost got? The fastest lap.
Yeah.
The fastest lap bonus point might be more important than ever during this entire season. But I think we're going to see a lot of Verstappen versus Hamilton in this case. But I wouldn't really throw out Valtteri Bottas from the picture as well. But here's the thing. When I stupidly called Valtteri Bottas George Bottas, I said something like that. What happened? Good. Bottas and Russell crashed.
Yeah.
It was like,
oh my God.
So I'm just going to have to pick someone else. Max Verstappen's going to win the Portugal Grand Prix for many reasons. I think one, he's got good race pace, finally has the Red Bull up in tune. Secondly, this is still a very new track. We don't know much from these guys in F1 cars at the circuit. And three, he has momentum from the first two races, especially last race at Imola. So I think time is on Max's side here. But if you really look at the World Constructors Championship as well, I'd like to highlight that for a moment. Red Bull is not out of it.
No.
They picked up double points at Bahrain. Now, had they pick up double points in some capacity at Imola, we could be seeing less than 10 points in a difference between Mercedes and Red Bull. So there's a lot at stake here going into round 3.
Yeah, but I feel like it's going to be Lewis Hamilton getting the win because, one, he's good. He has race pace. He has qualifying pace. He has also race pace. Basically, you've seen laps. Do you want to know what if people pay attention to when you look at the F1 graphics, what sometimes pops up? It says Lewis Hamilton. It says Lewis Hamilton, fastest lap. And sometimes it's a new lap record. It's like, you're talking about Lewis Hamilton here. He has so much he's done in his career.
He's so experienced at this point.
Yeah, and his car, like the Mercedes, I know they lost some pace from last year, but it's still fast on the straights.
Yeah, it is. But
it's not like
eras do come and go, and that's where I'm thinking, hey, Sebastian Vettel's era ended abruptly and unexpectedly.
Well,
but I don't know. Yeah, we still have a long ways left. We have 21 more races at the time of this podcast nowadays because we still have a lot of expected changes to be made.
Well, we know one team we know Williams. They're not. Haas is not going to do good.
Williams are not going to get a 7th win at Portugal.
Haas is not going to get points.
Haas might compete for the last finishing positions between.
Yeah. But it's like people try to criticize Mazepin at Imola.
Mazepin.
But
he can't drive.
Mick Schumacher pinned it on the pit entrance. How like he just
Okay, but
I'm like it's like people are like, oh, Mazepin's the only one that can't keep it straight.
Makes mistakes there, but gosh, the kid. I mean, honestly, he's just turned.
Well,
I mean, this is like the Mahavir Gunatham, but without the the likable personality.
But like Gunther Steiner, like I don't know what's going on.
It's funny, and there's a rumor coming out somewhere that
Rich
Energy might come back, or Nikita Mazepin's father Dimitri might buy the team. I don't even know. I mean, I hope that's not the case. We don't really need to see Mazepin F1.
Well, people are talking about Gene Haas selling the team.
That's what he should do, and I don't want to be that guy. But if this is what America's representation in Formula One looks like, then I want out.
Well, 2016, they didn't have a bad season.
It looked hopeful in 2016, but it ain't looking hopeful anytime soon.
Like Grosjean did decent in 2016.
Oh, by far. They had the stars aligned.
Yeah, right now it's
up to it.
Like people are trying to say, oh, Mick Schumacher's gonna be the rookie of the year in F1. Yuki Tsunoda's running.
It's gonna be Yuki without a question. Okay, but hear me out here. Hear me out. Callum Ilott, who I said many times last year really was the best candidate to even drive in, like if Kimi were to retire after the end of last year, which wasn't the case at Alfa Romeo, another sub Ferrari team like Haas. That he should be, with possibly Mick Schumacher or Robert Schwartzman in the vacant Haas rides. He's now a test driver at Alfa Romeo Racing.
Reserve driver. He's a reserve driver now.
Reserve driver.
And he's actually going to be running in one of the practice sessions. He's going to be running in practice.
Right, but I was thinking, hey, just put him in there, put him in the Haas car. I'm like, okay, Nikita Mazepin, so what? And then everything broke loose later on that same month of December, and I'm just looking at myself like, gee, why?
But it's just like Haas's car is it's not stable at all. I see it like the car is not stable on the track.
I'd rather drive a Ford Explorer built in 1995 than a Haas F1 at this point.
It's so bad through the corners. The straightaway, the Ferrari engine still is lacking pace compared to a Mercedes engine. So you see that truck going slow down the straightaways. It's like, once I see the Haas car, I'm like, holy. How do you go from being ahead of Williams last year to behind Williams this year?
Take whatever you have and throw it out. That's exactly what they did.
Oh, yeah, because they let go Grosjean. They let go
That's why I actually have my mock predictions for the World Constructor Championship. 19th place going to Williams and 20th place going to Haas. I think we're going to see Williams
19th.
Or 9th to 10th, my bad. But those same positions in the driver's stands will be filled by those drivers. Let's talk about another thing. I want to move on. I know I don't want to cut you off here, but we have a very important subject to discuss about Formula One and the nature of the Grand Prix weekend. We learned this past week that for qualifying day in exhibition sprint races, 3 sprint race format qualifying structures will set the grid for the Grand Prix on a Saturday in place of qualifying for at least 3 Grand Prix of 2021. Now, I don't think they have announced which races there are. No. I know when the rumor came out, something leaked that Canada would have it, and France and Spa, but a lot of people are divided on this. Teams, drivers, and especially fans. As a fan, let me just get my opinion out there right now. I am not a fan of sprint races. Why do you need to put these drivers in another position of possibly ruining equipment and their race weekend for the sake of, entertainment? Because it's really entertainment. That's why they're having it out. I mean, let's be real. A sprint race and qualifying and maybe a reverted grid and all these goofy things that people want to watch, for a little more. You put a little more time into watching F1 as a result, because there's a little possibility and a greater possibility of a massive scale and rise of that entertainment unit that I just mentioned. But it doesn't matter. We're really going to see what the council here and the FIA have to say together. All the meetings that happen behind closed doors. It really comes down to what the collective decision is. And hey, 3 races for this new idea is not a bad start. This isn't, NASCAR saying we're going to do stage racing right away. Just a month before the 2017 season started, which threw me, especially, and a lot of other fans, the very wrong way.
Wow.
This is a concept that we're implementing for a few races in the season to see whether or not this structure could work for the future.
No, but like in F1, there's been other qualifying formats throughout the years. But there's a qualifying format that people want instead of this current format, like the main format that we've been seeing, the one-lap format. People want that to return. Because that format, a lot of people liked it. Because the one-lap, like only one car you run a lap, basically showed of how the car had pace, basically, in one lap. So basically, you would see... like if we had a one-lap qualifying like before, we would see Mercedes and Red Bull fast, and you would see Haas's lap time slow. Basically, it's like a one-lap thing. They used to run till like 2000, the early 2000s. People liked that format.
Wasn't it 2016 or 2017 that they had this lap knockout
2016.
thing?
2016, it was like so dumb.
It was taken. It was scrapped. I remember they scrapped
after race 2, after Bahrain. They scrapped it. I am glad they scrapped it. Oh my gosh! Like
I remember David Hobbs called it
some qualifying formats. You're like, what the heck is this? Like, remember, well, back in the 90s, 80s, and 90s, they had a thing called pre-qualifying. They had too many F1 teams. They had a pre-qualifying session.
Well, there used to be an era when teams would fail to qualify. But those days are gone.
Yeah,
other than the 107% rule, which is surprised knowing that some of the teams in F1 today that doesn't happen anymore.
Last time that HRT.
Yeah, the Ray Carthaginian and Pedro de la Rosa, Australia in 2012. I remember that.
Their cars.
I remember to drive that team in F1 2012, the video game.
Oh yeah, their cars just, they don't have like the thing about some of these teams. It's like there's so many qualifying formats that are good. Some are just like, why does it even exist? People, do you want to know what Bernie Ecclestone wanted an idea?
Let's hear it, Justin.
Lottery qualifying. Like something like
that's Bernie Ecclestone for you.
Yeah, like, and people, like, some fans want, I want to see a backmarker car up front.
Then let's invert the grid. Remember they
tried that would be bad. Like, if they put last place in the points first, what, a Haas front row? That would be
you gotta make it work one way or the other. Or you could just put the video game on. It's what it is. I think we're going to see a lot of differences in the later part of the World Championship. So I think that's enough for F1. Now let's move on to another IndyCar or another single seating series out there. And that's IndyCar Texas Motor Speedway for rounds 3 and 4 of a 17 race championship. Last year, Scott Dixon won the race. By the way, last year that was the opening race of the tour.
Yep.
Scott Dixon also ties for most wins, but the first race was held at the Speedway in 1997, won by Arie Luyendyk. A controversial track for many reasons in IndyCar. 1997, remember Billy Boat was originally the winner, then it was changed to Arie Luyendyk after the race was over. Like I think it was a day or two later. That wasn't pretty. How about 2001 when CART literally came to the race, had a weekend, and as soon as the CART race began, nope. Safety concerns. The race was pretty much canceled right away as fans were told to leave. It was an ugly scene. But the race eventually started getting a good grip in the Indy Racing League side of IndyCar racing, which was great, except for 2003, when we nearly saw Kenny Brack lose his life in one of the highest forces of G-force in a crash in recorded data history. Ironically, that race was the day Scott Dixon clinched his first of what is now 6 IndyCar championships. Scott Dixon, who won last year in the season opener, is now the winningest driver, tied with Helio Castroneves at Texas Motor Speedway, 4 wins for both drivers. Sam Hornish Jr. won this race 3 times. Scott Goodyear, Will Power, and Scott Sharp shared 2 wins. Now, in terms of team wins, Team Penske, 10 wins for Team Penske. Chip Ganassi Racing, 6 wins. Petter Racing and Kelly Racing, 2 teams that no longer exist in the series, 5 wins and 4 wins. You have 2 races. One race, I think, is 300 kilometers. The other race is like 375 kilometers. Saturday and Sunday?
Yeah, it's 212 lap race on Saturday, 248 on Sunday. Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah, which is going to be an interesting race. I actually have my picks for both races. Race 1, this driver, he drives for Andretti Autosports. He returned to the series full-time this year. Driver of the number 29, James Hinchcliffe, will win race number 1 at Texas. My pick for race 2. This driver, he drives for Team Penske. Driver of the number 22, Simon Pagenaud, will win race number 2 at Texas.
Race 1, I think experience is key. Scott Dixon will take the win in race 1.
Okay.
And race 2, we're going to see something very interesting. Will Power is going to score his 3rd win at Texas Motor Speedway in race 2 and jump up into the points lead. Alex Palou, I think, might drop a little bit. I mean, we really got to see these guys at Texas.
Well, he wrecked last year in the race, but he's with a better team. With Chip Ganassi, he might improve.
That is true.
So
it's going to be very important in terms of the points and all that.
Well, I think Connor Daly's running for Carlin possibly because one thing, Max Chilton does not run ovals. He said, I don't know why. I think he said about he doesn't like
drivers
ovals.
Just don't like the ovals.
Well, we know Tony Kanaan's running the ovals. People are like,
welcome back, Tony Kanaan.
But fans are like, no, run Jimmy at the ovals. I'm like, IndyCar goes not NASCAR's. It's not NASCAR at an oval. NASCAR, you know how.
Ironically, Jimmy Johnson has 7 wins at Texas Motor Speedway.
Yeah, like IndyCar. IndyCar, you go fast. Oof, you're basically running.
It's just a different nature of racing that Jimmy Johnson's just not ready for.
Yeah, so that's one reason I agree having experience in that number 48 entry, literally.
And he might help that team as well. We'll have to see. It's going to be very interesting for sure.
Literally, I'm just looking through. Connor Daly is running the ovals in the number 59 for Carlin. And oh my gosh, I just forgot. Except he's not running the Indy 500, which is going to be run by Max Chilton. That's the only oval race he's running. Oh yeah, I forgot. Charlie Kimball's back for AJ Foyt's number 11 entry at the Indy races, and Gerard Hildebrand running the number 1. I know that the number 1 you have to be a champion, but just for this one race they were allowed to use the
champion. I think it's a special request because the champion decides whether or not he uses one in the defending year. Yeah,
Tony Kanaan will drive the 48. It's gonna be the entry list is not out, but I'm just reading through Wikipedia's we're reading through Wikipedia's entries, but it's gonna be an interesting. And Pietro Fittipaldi's running the 51 because Grosjean's not running ovals either, which I agree with. It's gonna be an interesting IndyCar weekend.
All right, so let's go ahead and move on and talk about the upcoming sports car endurance races this weekend. We have a lot on the plate here. We'll start off with the World Endurance Championship, and then we'll move on to the VLN NLS Nürburgring Series. But let's get started with the all-new 2021 FIA World Endurance Championship, 6 hours of the Spa-Francorchamps in the beautiful circuit, the Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium. But there's a lot of history towards this race that I like to, discuss. So the very first race, ironically, was won in 1953 by one driver, Olivier Gandenbien, a Belgian pioneer racer at his time. He drove a Ferrari 166 MM. Now, last year's winner, For Talladega Gazoo's Racing, Mike Conway, Kamui Kobayashi, and Jose Maria Lopez in the Toyota TSO 50 hybrid won last year. Now, let's take a look at the categories between wins from drivers, constructors, and engines. For drivers, Jackie X. He won this race 5 times from 1967 to 68, 74, 82, and 83. 4 wins, Brian Redmond, Mario Baldi, and Sebastian Buemi. 3 wins, Willie Maurice, Derek Bell, Joaquin Mass, Mark Genet, Anthony Davidson, and Kazuki Nakajima. And these drivers that had 2 wins at the 6 hours of Spa include Paul Friere, Mike Parkas, Joe Siffert, Jean-Christophe Bouillon, Sebastian Bourdais, Pedro Lamy, Nicholas Minyanson, Simon Pagenaud, Loic Duval, Benoit Choulier, Andre Latour, Marcel Fassler, and Fernando Alonso. Now let's go to constructor wins. Of course, Ferrari is probably not going to win this overall, but they do have 10 wins. From 1953 to 1961 to 66, they swept the first half of the 1960s decade, 1972, and a drought till 1999, and one more win 20 years ago, 2001. 10 wins total. Porsche, 9 wins. They failed to get a 10th win during their revival of overall competition in the latter half of the 2010s. Audi, 6 wins. Peugeot and Toyota tied with 5 wins. Jaguar, 3 wins. Aston Martin, Mirage, Sauber, and Courage, 2 wins. And these manufacturers with 1 win include Ford, Lister, Matra, Alfa Romeo, Lancia, Mercedes-Benz, Lucchini, and Renauer. Now, in terms of engine manufacturers, Ferrari has 1 more win than they do as a constructor. 11 wins, 1953, 1961, all the way through 66, first half of the 60s decade, 1972, 1985, 1999, and 2001. That's 11 wins total. Porsche, 9 wins, on the other hand, like I mentioned in the constructors. They failed to win as a team in their overall revival. Yeah. Looking down the list, Peugeot and Audi were neck and neck during the entire 2000, early 2010s, Audi to the mid-2010s. 6 wins shared in between for the engine. Toyota, 5 wins for the active overall winning competing manufacturer. Jaguar, 4 wins. Ford and Mercedes-Benz share 3 wins. Aston Martin and Alfa Romeo share 2 wins. And Matra, Gibson, and Judge share 1 win. That's a lot of numbers for a historic racing venue. Now, Justin, thank you for sharing me the entry list for the FIA World Endurance Championship opener.
35 entries.
35 entries, and so we have 3 cars competing for the overall win. But it's likely that we might see an LP2 win. It's possible in a 6-hour race, 3 overall competing cars have a problem.
Well, it depends about how Toyota might be fast again because
the Alpine making a step up to the
and
big boys.
It's interesting. The Glickenhaus cars.
Glickenhaus, unfortunately, they tried to fund their way through, but the American team will wait before they make their hypercar debut.
But it's interesting. I saw the results for that prologue test session they had over the weekend. The number 8 was the fastest. It's still proven that Toyota Gazoo is still fast. So
you know this difference between time from the Toyotas to the Alpine?
Yeah. I'm actually gonna pull that up right now. Nope, that's NASCAR. I don't need NASCAR's website because that's not gonna give me any results. Prologue. That's what I need. Results. Oh my gosh. The first place was the number 8. They ran a 2-minute 4.669. Second was not even a hypercar. It was an LMP2. The United Autosports number 22. Third was the number 36. The 36. The Alpine was 0.6 off of the number 8 Toyota. The number 7 Toyota finished 0.3 behind the number 36 in 4th. So it's literally an LMP2 split the 8 and the 36. So
All right, you guys in the live chat, will an LMP2 car win overall this weekend? Because it is actually a little more possible than it was in the last few years. Because, you can't say that 3 cars in this race cannot fail between now and the end of the 6-hour race.
Well, remember what happened in Le Mans in 2017 when...
Yeah, we almost saw an LMP2 car win overall.
Remember all three Toyotas. Toyota entered a third car, and all 3 of them failed, but then ended up being the Porsche. Or no, not the Porsche, the Audi.
Porsche won that race. Audi left after 2016.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And Porsche said goodbye after that one, even though they won.
Yeah.
But it's been a while since we've seen, in the top world level of sports car racing where other classes compete for the overall win.
But
even though the FIA GT1 era and all those eras have gone, came and went, but now I think we might see it here. Who knows? Well, let's just go class by class in this case. So, of course, let's talk about the overall winning class, and you guys in the chat tell me whether or not we'll see the hypercar win overall, because it is likely that we might see an LP2 car win this race overall. You guys tell me what. But in terms of the hypercar class win, who will get that victory?
For me, it is the number 8 Toyota Gazoo Racing entry, driven by Sebastian Buemi, Kazuki Nakajima, and Brendan Hartley.
I'm going to have to go with car number 7 here, because I think the world-class drivers are just going to, set the class. Either way, it's going to be a good just between speeds and driver performances and driver handlings in this endurance race with Mike Conway, Kamui Kobayashi, and Jose Maria Lopez, winners from last year. They'll continue on from last year, win again this year. All right, let's move on to the LMP2 class. Now, there has been a change in the LMP2 class. There is now a Pro-Am Cup trophy awarded for select teams if they have, the drivers with their licenses in that category of being a Pro-Am level. So there is an award. There are, I think, about less than half the LMP2 class has it. Actually, 14 cars in the class. So 1, 2, 7. Oh, that's half the class.
Yeah, the 20, 21, 25, 26, the 29, 44, and 70.
All right, I'm going to ask you guys in the live chat again. I don't know if you guys are actually going to type in the live chat, but I guess watching me is better than typing. But will a Pro-Am car win the LMP2 class? Well, that's just up in the air. But yeah, an LMP2 class, we'll break it down, who's going to win the class. And if our predictions aren't a Pro-Am drivers, then we'll make a prediction on that end. But who's going to take LMP2 glory this time around?
My pick is not a Pro-Am car, so my pick's the number 28 Jota Sport entry, driven by Sean Galisle, Stoffel Van Dorn, and Tom Blomqvist. They
sound like real forces to be reckoned with. If you guys watched the Asian Le Mans series, they put on a clinic, I tell you what.
Yeah.
I think my pick for the LMP2 class, and this is just by how well they perform. Number 22, United Autosports USA entry with Phil Hansen, Fabio Scherer, and Felipe Albuquerque. Okay. A lot of experience in that car. They're not a Pro-Am class, so that's going to lead us into the next category. Who will take Pro-Am honors?
Okay, my pick for the Pro-Am will be the number 70 Real Team Racing entry, driven by Esteban Garcia, Loic Duval, and Norman Nato.
All right, so with the LMP2 Pro-Am trophy, I believe that's going to go to Dragon Speed USA number 21 Orca 07 with Henrik Hedman, Juan Pablo Montoya, and Ben Handley. I feel like there's something good within the drivers behind that car, but it might be a little competitive there too, regardless of not if an AM driver wins the class entirely or just picks up the AM trophy. It should be a good fight. All right, the Lmgt Pro Class. Now we know Lmgt racing has kind of diminished. If you look in North America, they won't have Lmgt specs anymore after the IMSA season concludes in 2022 and onwards. But there's still two divided classes for the entirety of the season. In the World Endurance Championship, of course, the Lmgt Pro Class with more factory-backed teams, and then the Lmgt AM class with more privateer-related teams. We'll start with the Lmgt Pro Class, and there are only 5 in this event. Who's going to take the class win?
For what? For
GT Pro.
I have the number 92 Porsche GT team, driven by Kevin Estre and Neil Johnny.
It's their first race. By the way, this is the first time that the actual Porsche factory team will be racing. First time since last year's 12 Hours of Sebring. Remember, they don't race in North America anymore. Or for now. They're just probably taking the season off. But wow. I think in the GT Pro class, will go to... I think this combination has been so well put for the last several years, no matter where they race. Number 63 Corvette Racing Chevy Corvette CAR with Antonio Garcia and Ollie Gavin will pick up the class win. One more class, the LMGTE AM class. We have a total of 13 cars in that category, second most of all the categories in this race. A lot of different kinds of backgrounds of these drivers, but in the end, it should be an interesting bout for sure. I think I'll give my pick for the GTM class beforehand, unless you have yours already, Justin.
I have mine right here. My pick is the number 33 TF Sport Aston Martin Vantage AMR, driven by Ben Keating, Dylan Pereira, and Philippe Fraga.
All right, TF Sport.
That's not bad.
All right, I think...
What's this?
I think my prediction for the GTE AM class. This is tough. This is real tough. You know, I think I'm for this one.
What?
I'm going to have the 54 AF Corsa Ferrari 488 GTE Evo with Thomas Floor, Francesco Castellet, and Giancarlo Fisichella.
Okay.
All right. That's it for World Endurance Championship 6 hours of Spa predictions. Should be a very interesting season opener. All right. And before we go on any further, we do have another sports car race coming up our way. This is the NLS, formerly known as the VLN, the homebound series at the Nürburgring track, really centered around the 24 hours of Nürburgring race for round 3 of 9. So, yeah, this is the race coming up. Now, we don't have an actual entry list. I know, Justin.
I've been looking, and it's all giving me like how to sign up for the series, which that's not what I want. No, we're not. We're not trying to sign up for the series.
They kind of give it out midweek or so.
Yeah, I'm just looking through these. Yeah, I'm just looking on another. I'm trying to look at other. Yeah, there's no entry list yet. All
right, and going off Wikipedia, it only says like, oh, these guys are running 1 or 2 races.
Yeah.
I don't see anything other than that. So we're just gonna have to pick the team and hope that they show up. But I know which teams show up most of the time. I think I don't know. Of course, driver laps are I'm probably not going to be the same, but I assume that in terms of Nürburgring and all that, Fricatelli Racing Team, either 30 or 31 will win that race. I'm just going for overall, because usually they have really good factory drivers for Porsche that fill their spots. So I would put a lot of high hopes in those guys, whoever they hire.
Well, my pick is the number 35 Walking Horse Motorsport entry.
All right, so Walking Horse Motorsport usually bring in some good drivers from BMW. So I think it's going to be an interesting showing, no matter who makes it. Of course, the entry list should come out later this week. But,
oh my gosh. Whoa, that's interesting. I was just looking through. There's a car in the M240i class, number 666. Interesting car.
Very interesting, all right.
There's also 888 by Purple Dot Racing with Walking Horse. Some numbers
nope, that's not 888.
No, it's not the 888 Racing. Nope, but they don't have a disguised team. They're not just them disguising their team. Nope.
All right. I mean, it should be a good showing. I like the races that are always shown on YouTube. And that race is on the 1st of May, so that's Saturday.
Yep, same day as the WEC race, which is at early morning for people over here.
Nice, we get to watch 2 races at once. That's great.
But for it's kind of like interesting for the WEC race coverage.
So I have to watch the race downstairs. Just kidding.
Well, Joseph, do you know what's annoying about this with Motor Trend? They show the first part and then the second part at the end. They got the middle part
mid-race and come back, expecting the viewers to.
But do you know what's funny? Discovery Velocity, which airs WEC in Canada, shows the full race on TV. Yeah, they just show the full thing. But it's gonna be an interesting race. Hopefully, we don't have snow like that one year. Remember when it was snowing?
Yeah, but they never they really tried to keep that race going, and they did.
Yeah.
I think this is a good stopping point for the podcast. We had, like I said, we had to push it from yesterday to today, but hey, at least I am free and no longer have to worry about school for a little while.
And at least we done the podcast. Yep.
All right. So I think that's it. Danny, unfortunately, will never join back with us. So guess we'll have to see goodbye and have him come back next time around. But for my partners, Justin Herbert, Daniel Ford, I am Joe Laney Powell. I'm going to sign off tonight. You guys have a good one. We'll see you all next week.